Apple isn't investing in OpenAI, and iMore is no more. This is MacVoices. MacVoices is supported by Take Control Books, one of the very best sources of clear, concise information on not only Apple's various operating systems, but also key Apple and third-party utilities and more. Visit TakeControlBooks.com and start your library today. Welcome to MacVoices. This is the talk of the Apple community, and I'm Chuck Joyner. Folks, we are back after a week's hiatus because I was traveling for business. We have a lot to cover. I do want to point out, though, that I have pink lights on in the background and a pink shirt because today is the first day of Breast Cancer Awareness Month. So it's something that has touched a lot of us. And if it's touched you, I'm so sorry. But it's a worthy cause. If you can support it, please do. With that, let's find out who's here, and then we will tackle 2 weeks worth of articles in one night. Frightening. In the top left. I can't tell my right from my left anymore. That's how long it's been. Top left, Mr. David Ginsburg. David, good to have you. Thanks for being here.
Good to be here. I'm glad to be back. We missed you, and we missed us talking to all of our folks that watch us every week. So glad to be back.
I'm with you, Dave. I really do miss them when I don't get to do them. So hopefully that won't continue to happen too often, although sometimes it just does. Eric Bolden is here with yet another background, this time with what looks to be like a big green, I don't know, is that a fruit, Eric?
Winter hardy kiwi. Just almost ripe. Almost I can just grab some and take a little nibble. And yeah, these are nice because they're not fuzzy like the kiwi you get in stores. So you can eat them like right off, maybe rinse them off a little. It's really nice.
Okay. I didn't know there was such a thing.
And they grow outdoors in Wisconsin. So big, huge vine, lots of kiwi. Eat them until you probably shouldn't anymore.
How do you know?
Oh, you'll know.
Yeah. Too much vitamin C. It's not a good thing. It's not pretty.
I'll draw you a picture, Chuck.
No, thank you. That's plenty. Thank you, Jeff. Marty Jencius is here right beside Eric Bolden. Marty, good to see you. Thanks for being here.
It's good to be here. I have to ask Eric, you're in Wisconsin, so have they managed to figure out a way to booze those things up? I mean, can you make fermented unfuzzy kiwi?
Yeah, they ferment really well.
Oh, okay.
Sometimes they ferment while they're still on the vine.
Ask him how he knows.
I have no idea.
He saw it on the internet.
I've heard. Yes, I've heard.
That internet, I tell you.
This week in fermentation. Brian Flanigan-Arthurs is here as well. Thank you for being here, Brian. You may be one of the more sane people on the panel.
Oh boy, I'm the most sane one.
Well, it's good to have you, regardless of your sanity.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Jim Ray, I thought you might be watching the debates. I'm delighted to have you here.
Is this thing still on?
You just missed us, right?
That's the vice presidential debate. Who cares?
Okay.
Just watch the news. You get a 5-minute recap.
Speaking of who cares, Jeff Gamet is here. No, wait, that didn't come out right.
That's a fair cop.
That was good.
How you doing, Jeff?
I'm doing all right. And Jim's right. We don't need to watch the vice presidential debates because there's only one candidate that can make a tater tot casserole.
That's true.
And Chuck's processing that.
I don't understand the reference. What did I miss?
Which one is it, Jeff?
It's the one that doesn't wear eyeliner. It's the one that knows how to fix his own car.
His Scout.
His Scout.
Okay.
Chuck, you don't know what a tater tot casserole is?
Apparently not. No.
It's a hot dish.
I was skipping over that part.
It's a hot dish.
Okay. Okay. I admit it. I'm
I
not
know what
always.
tater tots are. I know what casserole
Yeah.
is.
Well,
yeah,
that's
next potluck, we have a challenge.
okay. I mean,
Find a
yeah,
place that makes the casserole.
Yeah, you can Google it, Chuck. And this is one of the rare times when I say Google it, where it's actually safe to do that.
well, that's okay. Well,
Just don't misspell
Or
it.
two. You never know what you might get.
okay. Well, okay. There apparently is such a thing as tater tot casserole. All right.
There's a recipe. You can make it.
Okay. I will not have links in the show notes, folks. You can do your own searches.
I missed you, Chuck.
I know. I can tell. I missed you guys too. So let's start out with some Apple news, because there's a fair amount of it. Yeah, we'll start with the Apple stuff, then go to the more general tech stuff as we go. Throwing this into the chat room, Apple has reportedly, decided not to invest in OpenAI after all. Sorry, I just hit the wrong button.
There you go.
And the stock market seemed to respond favorably one day and then not so favorably the next.
Today was bad.
And I'm not quite sure if this was what the driver or whether some of the other things were the drivers. But regardless, it's really interesting that they're stepping back. One article I saw specifically pointed out that they're still interested in working with OpenAI. They just aren't interested in investing in them. I don't know what to say except okay. It does seem a little unusual because this is not the kind of thing Apple typically does, is goes out and invests in other companies. But anybody have any other thoughts, or was anybody else surprised by this?
I was slightly surprised since they were so gung ho about it during the last event, but maybe not so surprised. I don't know, maybe they just had second thoughts of why do we need to invest in this when we're doing our own thing here, and it's hard to say why they wouldn't have want to jump in on that.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, the only thing I could think of was some of the issues surrounding that we'll get to eventually about the regulations from the EU and the way they seem to be looking at everything so deeply. And that just also doesn't seem like Apple to try to do something to avoid that. So I don't know. It seemed to have a lot of people not up in arms, but just lots of commentary and lots of thoughts on why.
Check the partnership. Go ahead, because Marty, you're going to be more intelligent than I am. I have no doubt.
No, I'm not going to challenge that. I mean, I'm not going to attempt that. But I just think, the article talks about how they're going to continue to have this relationship where Apple's going to use the service as questions they need to outsource. And OpenAI is happy that they're going to continue to use it because it gives them a level of exposure. It's just Apple's made a decision not to invest in this company at this time, possibly because they're going to be using that money in other investments, or they see the sense of not piling it all on to OpenAI.
Yeah. Jeff?
See, I told you Marty would be super intelligent on this. Okay, my take, condensed down into a small nugget, because Apple has the partnership, the unpaid partnership, to have OpenAI hooked in to the new Apple Intelligence platform. They already have what they need. My guess is they were looking at all of this in a numbers spreadsheet, and they're like, for as much money as we're considering investing, we're not going to get the return that we want on that. And we already have a partnership, so screw it. We don't need to invest any money.
Okay. Eric?
there have been a lot of changes at OpenAI, with board members and who's running it and, who got ousted and came back and how much of the company is research and how much of the company is for profit. So it wouldn't surprise me if there are enough changes that Apple wasn't comfortable being tightly associated with them as long as they could still get the use. And as things shake out and, they figure out where all the researchers went and that kind of thing, they can always try and do something later. Or maybe it will be with a different company.
Yeah, I mean, I think all these things probably factored into it. I'm sort of relieved to see that they will continue to be a customer, because right now ChatGPT and OpenAI seem to be the gold standard, and Apple wants to be associated with the gold standard, at least until they can become a gold standard themselves. And that doesn't seem like something that's going to happen in the immediate future. So we'll see.
Yeah, but they can continue to do that without dropping down a bunch of money. I would bet every anonymous request that goes out to OpenAI that comes from an Apple device, Apple's going to know what the question is, and that will help them develop their Apple Cloud AI even further, to be able to begin to answer those types of questions in-house.
Yeah, I agree, Marty. I agree. So I just, the fact that they are stepping away, it'll be interesting to see now if Google or Microsoft do the same, whether they stick around.
Oh, Microsoft is absolutely sticking around.
Yeah, I was going to say.
They have invested so much into OpenAI already. They're in for the long haul.
Yeah, fair point. Fair point. One that is sort of Apple related or not, but iMore this week closed their doors, their virtual doors, as far as publishing new content. They will remain online for a little while, but this came out of left field at pretty much everyone. And I mean, I've known iMore for a long time, and they were one of those sites that rose up to become one of the most credible voices for the Apple tech community. And now that's one more voice silenced. So I ask you guys, what's your reaction? Is this indicative of the fact that Apple is now so big and so important that all the major news services are covering it, and therefore there's not as much room for a dedicated Apple site or sites, even though there's still plenty that are out there right now?
Do you want a perspective from someone who was their job for a long time? Because I'm happy to offer that.
Mm-hmm.
Please.
Okay. So, Chuck, you are right. This, I believe, this is about advertising dollars. And years ago, when the big names, the New York Times, Wall Street Journal, when these organizations realized that there was this whole untapped market for them in the tech space, and they jumped in, it took all of the money that essentially that was going to all of the blogs that were covering all these spaces, and not just Apple, but just in the tech market in general. All that ad money, it dried up, and it went to the big players because that's where you're going to get the eyeballs, and that took, for a lot of the sites, their revenue from a place where they were able to provide their writers a living, to they were able to provide their writers beer money, and if you will. And it became harder and harder for a lot of the sites to be able to stay afloat. And you also started seeing some of the sites getting bought up and eventually absorbed into something else. So the fact that iMore is in the position where this last week they just out of the blue said, "So long and thanks for all the fish," it doesn't surprise me because I think that's ultimately where all of the mainstream Apple and other focused tech news sites are headed. The fact that it happened when it did, that's the part that surprised me. I assumed that iMore would be one of the sites that would be around long enough that when it was time for someone to turn off the lights on their way out for the last time, iMore would be in that group. So they're just gone earlier than I expected.
Okay.
And that is not a negative statement on iMore or any of the other Apple News sites that have come and gone, because they've all had awesome people. This is not about the quality of content they're producing. This is about what the market is.
Jeff, what I find interesting about it is that in some areas we seem to be moving to, as a society, we seem to be moving toward more and more specialization. And in other areas, we seem to be just dumping everything in a big bin and stirring it up. And so in a lot of ways, I would have thought that a more dedicated news site with a particular, if you want to call it a niche audience, call it a niche audience, but with a strong focus would have appealed to advertisers, maybe not at the same rates, but still would have appealed to advertisers, as opposed to a place where you never know exactly what you're going to get.
Well, we'll call them the niche sites. That's a great way to put it. The niche sites, there is still value in advertising there, but the money that advertisers are willing to spend on those sites is not what it once was. They're willing to put that money into the sites where they know the people are going to be. And that's not saying people don't want to or aren't interested in the smaller sites. It's just that in many cases they don't know they exist. They're already there at the big publications. The big publications have the content for them, and they don't, in essence, need to go somewhere else to get that content. They've got it right there where they already are.
Okay, Brian?
Yeah, I was going to say, I can't remember where I heard it, but somebody was commenting on iMore and shutting down and just talking about maybe across the board, a lot of these websites that have articles and blogs and things of that nature, they're just getting a lot less web traffic than they used to, and it continues to decline. I was trying to find a quick reference article for it, but I did find something from a company called Financial Advisor, I think is what it's from. And that part really goes into like a lot of the AI algorithms that are taking a lot of the information, so you can get it more directly from your search in a AI chat box than you would necessarily finding it, and discovering the page and clicking through the articles.
Marty?
Kind of parallels what we've seen with newspaper industry. The small guys kind of, there's less advertisement coming their way. They're put together into large McPapers, and that's where the money goes in terms of advertising. And so it makes it hard for small niche groups to maintain their business and pay their employees. So just surprised.
Yeah, you're right. There is an infrastructure issue that anyone that publishes on the web in any serious way has, and so you have to figure out what that's going to cost and whether you can cover that, and then start paying for the talent to write for it on top of that, et cetera, et cetera. David?
Yeah, I mean, it all boils down to the company Future PLCs, one that owned iMore, and a number of these sites got bought out over the years that they sold out to them, and Another one to come to mind is Anatech. Anatech, that also shut down in August. Same thing. Just traffic has dropped. It's a niche site. Like iMore was more Apple focused, whereas Anatech was more like PC and technology and do-it-yourself fixing and upgrading computers, and it just becomes, the fact that Future is such a big conglomerate company and they have so many different magazines and different entities that it was probably that they felt that it was time to wind it down, only because it just wasn't making them any money anymore. That's what I'm thinking.
Well, if that's the case, just please do not sell the domain.
Tuca.
Tua. We've done that, been there, done that. Let's not do that again.
Yeah. Chuck, the domain will stay and the articles will stay until what is it, Future Media that owns them?
Future PLC.
Thank you. Future PLC decides that it's not worth the money to continue maintaining the server that's hosting the site.
Like what AOL did with Tua.
And so when that happens, then they'll just shut down the site, and eventually someone just won't get around to renewing the domain name, and it'll get snatched up later on. This isn't going to happen overnight.
No.
I mean, look how long it took before the Tua domain ended up getting snatched up. So the iMore content will probably be around for quite a while before we have to start going to Wayback Machine to find it. But all of their forums, as I recall, that ends in November.
Yeah.
And from that point on, it's just a static site. And but eventually, sadly, it'll become a static site that's not worth the cost of maintaining.
Jeff, for some reason, your comment brought up a question that I would have, though. If they already own the content, they own the domain, how difficult is it to maintain that? Even if you migrate the iMore content into other sites or into your main corpus of information and just redirect the iMore domain back to your whatever your main presence is. I mean, as opposed to just abandoning it, or is it a situation now where, with no disrespect intended to iMore or anyone who's ever written it, it just at some point does it become stale and not worth the trouble?
Well, anything can become stale and not worth the trouble on the internet, especially if you're not adding new content. But my guess is that, at least for now, there's enough SEO juice in iMore to continue to pull people in for the foreseeable future. But yeah, at some point, maybe they'll do like what happened with Tua, where its content got absorbed into one of the other sites that AOL owned. And but then even that, I mean, good luck finding any of that anymore, really. Well, wait a second. You can go to Tua, where it's all been scraped.
Scraped, yeah.
And it's all one author.
And it's all one author. Man, that Terpstra person, they write a lot. But at some point, maintaining a server that's iMore website, they'll decide it's not worth the money. At that point, you're right. They'll probably absorb the content into one of their other sites, and then the iMore URL will just redirect to wherever that content is. But then eventually, they won't need to do that anymore, and for whatever reason they decide, and then the iMore domain just won't really go anywhere.
This could be a whole show's worth of discussion, and part of it we already had with the Tua. But what happens then to those articles? Since we saw what happened with Tuwa, that they got scraped, they got reassigned to Paul Terpstra, whoever Paul Terpstra is, and well, of course, and he gets is getting credit. Meanwhile, and Jeff, you've alluded to it happening to you, that some of your articles get scraped and rewritten by AI and potentially damage your reputation. Mm-hmm. Because if they're still under your byline, in some ways it might be better with what Tuwa and the new Tuwa did, that they just assigned a new byline. That way that none of the original authors can really be trashed for writing such terrible content. So maybe it's a weird triple-edged sword here of some kind.
It is, and it's a crappy sword, because the losers in all this are the readers and the authors, and the winners. And I think we have to use that term loosely. Mm-hmm. The winners are the people or the machine that holds the content and finds some way to squeeze a few more pennies out of it.
Yeah.
It's sad.
It is. It is. Visit MacVoices.com for show notes and to connect with Chuck on social media. Get involved in our Facebook group or like our Facebook page, and get more out of your Apple tech with MacVoices Magazine, free on Flipboard and on the web. And if you find value in it all, consider supporting us through either our Patreon campaign at patreon.com/MacVoices, or by making a one-time donation via the PayPal link on our front page and in the show notes of each episode. You will join these fine people who help bring you Mac Voices. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media at backbeatmedia.com. Bandwidth provided by CacheFly at cachefly.com.